All right, these are the facilitator tips for the practical application section of the recovery module. So before we even get into the questions, we want to be sure to emphasize the role that shame plays in creating and maintaining addictions and invite participants to try to answer the questions with self-compassion and understanding. Remember that shame is not a helpful motivator. It's good to say that as many times as you can to your participants so that they will kind of start to remember that quote. Shame is not a helpful motivator, but self-compassion is. It is helpful to emphasize that several industries profit off our addictions and intentionally create products to be addictive to help participants see the bigger picture and what they're up against instead of seeing the issue as just a personal weakness. Addiction is so much bigger than just not having good willpower or not caring about yourself or those things. Like literally everything about our society is set up to make us vulnerable to needing to something outside of ourselves to help ourselves regulate or be okay. And then they're also giving us like they're creating the problem and they're also trying to give us the quote unquote solution, which isn't actually the solution, but all these different products and substances and whatnot to keep us addicted because why? It will make some money. It makes them money. And so that's their money is way more important than our health, unfortunately. Some participants may be hesitant to discuss the information they write down during this section, so you can remind them that they are not obligated to share their responses or show their workbook to anyone. We want everyone to feel safe enough and feel like they have privacy in their workbook to really be honest with themselves and figure out what a good plan would be for them and not feel like, well, if I write this down, I'm not going to have to go around and talk about it. They don't have to talk about anything out loud that makes them feel uncomfortable. It's just their private business. You would also want to try to get through all the practical application questions if possible. I know sometimes time is difficult, but it's really important if you can because you want them to be able to leave with like a full plan to help increase their willingness to move forward in the stages of change so that they don't kind of become aware of what they need to work on, but then don't really know the steps of how to do it. So when we're asking them about identifying the top 3 things that they have a addiction to or a maladaptive or harmful pattern of use with, if participants claim that they do not have a maladaptive pattern of use with anything, encourage them to think about other behaviors not listed in the workbook that may apply to them. If they still cannot identify anything, encourage them to think about someone they love that struggles with an addiction and put themselves in their shoes to answer the questions as if they were that person. This will help them develop empathy and understanding and still allow them to understand the concepts in case addiction becomes an issue for them in the future. Also, feel free to give participants other examples of substances or behavioral addictions that maybe we didn't explicitly talk about to kind of help them understand what are all the different things that they can be addicted to. Like for example, maybe you put this one in there too, but a big example is like video games. We didn't talk about that one too much, but that is a common one, especially for our youth. So when we're asking about identifying like thoughts, emotions, sensations, experiences that they're trying to avoid by engaging in maladaptive behaviors or substance use, if participants struggle to identify what they're avoiding when they use, you can guide them using like visual imagery into a recent moment when they used or when they engaged in that behavior and what they imagined would have happened to them cognitively, emotionally, physically, or relationally if they had not used or engaged in that behavior. So you just kind of ask them to think about the last time that you used or that you did that thing that you feel like you're addicted to. What would if you had not done that in that moment? What would have happened? How would you have felt if you had not done that? What would your behavior have been if you had not have done that? Would it had caused a issue in your relationship or something if you had not done that? So that helps them start to understand like what they're using it to avoid or to mask. And then finally, for number 7, when we're talking about using walking in balance in general as much as they can throughout their life to help kind of prevent themselves from engaging in harmful behaviors, we're just really trying to emphasize that like even though this particular section is like focused on recovery, really the whole curriculum is. This curriculum can be used both for preventing harmful behaviors, and also from recovering from them. So it's not just this section that is helpful for recovering from substance use or other, behavioral addictions. The whole program is useful for that. So you can see the other sections of the curriculum are also, pieces of the puzzle to be able to heal from addiction. So we just want to make people aware that They don't just want to focus on this section, really the whole thing, if they're implementing it, will help them be able to both prevent themselves from getting, addicted to things and also help them recover from the stuff they're already addicted to.